Happy Sunday, everyone. Welcome to Our Issues Birmingham. I'm Tommy Spina. Today's guest is John Archibald with AL.com, formerly known as the Birmingham News, now known as the Alabama News, and beyond. We do have a Birmingham News of sorts. John, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Everyone knows John. He writes stinging columns about a variety of things.
Not always.
And every now and then, he'll dig deep into his inner self and report a heartfelt story. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for being on board. We just got through about a month ago an election cycle.
Finally, you got through.
So
just in time for the holidays.
What do you think about what happened on a national? Well, first of all, let's talk local. Jefferson County's no surprises there really that I could tell.
Well, the big takeaway I think is that not a lot of surprises occurred in the state, but the thing that struck me was just the number of people who just voted straight ticket voting, Republican and Democrat, which assured. It really shows itself in Jefferson County where you had the disqualified candidate.
That's a real cluster.
Right. She won a judgeship even though she can't take it because of straight ticket voting. So, I mean, that's, to me, is a huge problem.
Are they able to, I'm sure they are with today's technology, able to percentage-wise designate how many straight ticket votes there were out of the
They estimated, John Merrill estimated, it wasn't an estimate, I think he calculated that 65% of all ballots in Alabama were straight ticket ballots.
Wow.
Which is up from about less than 50% in the last few elections. I mean, it just, sort of signals that divide that everybody knows we are in the middle of and continue to be in the middle of. And it doesn't always make you confident that people are choosing the best
qualified candidate.
Right. If it were up to me, I would outlaw straight ticket ballots and let people vote on a candidate themselves. Of course, it's not up to me.
No, it's not up to me either. It was a lengthy ballot, and there may just be some people that are just lazy and didn't want to sort through.
Well, if you don't want to turn the page, maybe you should let somebody else do it.
Yeah. Well, we are still Alabama, and we are still divided roughly 60-40 from what I can tell.
Mm-hmm.
We most recently have had Jeff Sessions, as I use the term loosely, a resignation.
Right.
At your request.
That was immediately after the election.
Within 24 hours,
right.
12 hours. So do you see him, what I see, I don't know if he's made this public or not, but what I see is him coming back to the Senate and knocking off Doug Jones or trying to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are certainly a lot of people who think that's going to happen, and I think that I think if he wants to go back into the Senate, where a lot of people weren't necessarily that nice to him on his departure, then I think he would win pretty easly, honestly, and so I would not be at all surprised if that's what happens. We're going to have to see where he stands on that.
Well. Statewide, I mean, he could come back here, but I think he now that he's been to the mountaintop, he's going to want to stay there.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. If I were on that mountaintop, I might want to come home and rest for a little while myself. Mm-hmm. But because that mountaintop wasn't that fun for him, I don't think.
No, it was horrible.
I do think the Senate is probably the most likely spot, especially since we just finished our other state election. So that's the one to prepare for, I think.
Yeah. What do you see going on locally in our political scene? And when I say locally, even though we broadcast beyond Birmingham and Jefferson County, I'm
Well,
talking primarily Birmingham and Jefferson County.
of course, we have a new sheriff in town, Mike Hill.
That's a straight vote.
That's a straight ticket voting result.
Yeah.
It's going to be real interesting to see how that happens, how that works out. And going back to a previous election, I think one of the things I'm going to be watching the most is the Jefferson County Commission, where we have an influx of people from the city council. It says Sheila Tyson and LaShonda Scales left the Birmingham City Council to become county commissioners, which leads to a new couple of city council members coming in, and that's gonna shake some things up over at the county, because those are a couple of formidable women who
they've been guests.
Will shake it up.
They're strong-willed.
They are strong-willed, and it's going to be fun to watch the county to see how they meld with the current commissioners.
Well, do you see anything going on? To switch gears, we've had a lot of supposition about political corruption investigations going on in the Northern District of Alabama.
Well,
do you have any feeling about what's going on there?
Well, I think that, of course we have interest in the Birmingham Waterworks Board, which continues to play out, which...
that case has been reset for April.
Right. So
the state case.
The state case. And
there is no federal case, but there is talk about a federal case.
Anything you want to talk about that would be appreciated.
I'm not at liberty.
Tommy's a lawyer for that, so he can't really talk, and I'm messing with him here. But there's that case, and we have some other questions. I mean, there's still some questions with me about whether there's going to be any more fallout with the Oliver Robinson North Birmingham pollution scandal, in which a lawyer for Balch and Bingham and a Drummond VP were convicted, and Oliver Robinson pleaded guilty. And there's been some question about how far that will be pursued and whether there are other people involved in that. And I don't necessarily think there may be any continual federal probes, but the state has some interest, I believe.
Hold on a second, and we'll get back to that when we come back from break. This is Our Issues Birmingham. I'm talking with John Archibald this morning and this evening, too, if you're watching at night. And we'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham. I'm speaking with John Archibald today about a variety of things. We've been talking about the local political scene, the statewide political scene. We're going to shift gears because we're going to have a new legislative group in session after the first of the year. Who knows what, if anything, will be accomplished, but we're hoping something gets accomplished. What would be on your wish list of things you'd like to see accomplished? How about a lottery?
My wish list has absolutely nothing to do with what they're going to do.
I know, but we could maybe give them an idea.
We need to figure out a way to properly fund the state government so that we can run things like prisons and build highways and do all the things that we take for granted as a state for basic government. It does look like, and you say there's a new group in town. It's very much the same group that's been in town.
A few little
changes here and there. That's right.
We got Mr. Rafferty coming in.
Yes. When I look at them, what did they have? They had constitutional amendments passed last year for.
You mean just
last month for
4 or 5 things
for to
bypass the abortion,
the 10 Commandments and abortion restrictions. So I don't know what they're going to do next year if they've got those taken care of already. But
some say that will ultimately end up costing Alabama millions of dollars in trying to defend.
Well, there's language in that says that at least on the 10 Commandments one that says we can't spend any money, so it probably won't end up doing anything anyway. I think what we'll see this time around is a real push for a gas tax increase, because the gas tax, in order to build roads and that sort of thing, and I think that there's a lot of momentum for that in some circles. I think the governor's on board with it, and I think that that's likely to be a big thing. There's also been sort of a year-long effort to clarify and reform the ethics law.
Again.
And when we reform things, I think that means we screw them up worse.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a question of whether that's the reform of the ethics law is going to make it stronger, which it's not, or if it's going to make it less dangerous for politicians. And
or give them some more wiggle room.
I'm guessing it's going to give them more wiggle room.
I think probably the Hubbard trial shook them up a little bit.
It shook them up a lot, and Dale Marsh, who was close to Hubbard, has been sort of pushed this year-long reform, and with a lot of other support as well from people who say it's too complicated.
Well, you talk about, of course, even at the government level, accounting is a pretty simple concept. The idea being you take in more than you spend, and then you have something left over. At least to get to a balanced budget would be nice. Both Walt Maddox and Kay Lottery, I like that.
Did you?
That was
Governor Lottery.
Have talked in terms positively, I think, of a state lottery to help with at least education. Do you see that as a reality? Or are we still going to get hung up with the 60% of the state of Alabama that are pretty well on the right side of things?
I just don't. I don't see that happening.
Ever.
Well, ever's a long time, but I don't see this happening right now.
It would have to be put to a vote to the people.
Yeah, it would require some constitutional amendment.
Just another one? Amendment 1006?
Yeah, which is, of course, we seem to like to approve amendments because state approved all of them.
I think Bill Baxley tried to rewrite the Constitution when he was around.
Yeah,
it never made it.
There was real momentum for rewriting that Constitution, 10 or 15 years ago, and it kind of it was squandered away. And I think we desperately need a new Constitution. But the problem is that we desperately need somebody who can write it, and I'm not that convinced that I trust the people in Montgomery to do it.
No, I don't know who you'd get to do that. How do you? What an incredible task!
Right. Too bad Thomas Jefferson's not around for us.
Well, I think just overcomplicated things would make it simpler. It'd be a lot
longest
easier.
Constitution in the world, with all its amendments. It would.
Alabama's #1 in something there. That's a good sign.
It is. If you started reading it right now.
You could fly to Rome and back.
You could. I calculated it once. I think it was, if you read it with a Southern accent, it takes a little longer, of course. But
I mean, what's the hang-up? I mean, it's all around us, and it's all about the morality of gambling, I suppose, and the religiousness of that being a sin or something.
Well, I mean, there's that, and then there's there are a group of people who really feel like it doesn't. It has as many negatives as it does positives on people, and creates other problems, and isn't the financial panacea that people think it is. But clearly, from where I said, a lot of people are clamoring for it.
But they're legislating morality in that instance, in my opinion.
Well, that's what they do.
Always.
How long you been here, man?
All my life. Well, not yet. Most of my life.
Yeah, that's the one thing you can count on.
My daughter, who's now 32, was quite disgusted. She doesn't live in Alabama. Was quite disgusted with the election results in Alabama. She resides in a neighboring state. But when she was 14, she asked me, "Dad, why'd you stay here?" and I didn't have a very valid answer for her because I think she saw it then, perhaps what we see now.
Because you love it.
Well, I can't say that I love it. I still remember that sign from
it's home.
The 60s America. I love
and
it.
It's been good to you.
It has been good to me. This is Our Issues Birmingham. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham. We're talking about a variety of topics, but certain things I've always been a proponent of trying to move forward in some progressive ways. One of them is getting nonstop flights to cities other than Atlanta out of the Birmingham beautifully designed airport. But when Patricia Todd was on our legislative group, we've had her on as a guest about marijuana and about what's happening with marijuana and why are we wasting resources on marijuana and why is marijuana still a Schedule I narcotic as same as heroin and many other more dangerous drugs, at least perceptually. It's called a gateway drug, I guess. It's a gateway to the refrigerator from what I understand. But what do you see happening here with that?
Boy, I can tell you our readers are really, that's a big issue for our readers. They really want legalization or decriminalization, maybe more than any other issue that I can see.
But when you talk about your readers, who are those? What is that demographic?
Yeah, that's.
Are you able to know broad, where it's coming from?
I mean, let me just. I should say our most vocal readers like that, and I think that it's across a lot of demographics. I mean, it's not just youth. It's not just white or black. I mean, it's across the board. People feel pretty strongly about it, and in a state where we have such high incarceration rates, it would probably help that matter too.
Well, I think in Jefferson County and in more of the civilized parts of Alabama, people aren't going to prison for marijuana possession cases. Especially in light of, people aren't going to prison for most possession cases because we have an excellent diversion program operated by Judge Owens here in the form of a drug court. And we have a mental health court, and we have a veterans court. But so that's diverting a lot of folks out of the possibility of being felonized and going to prison. But in Alabama, the window of availability of cannabis is so tiny for those individuals that are suffering from seizures, mostly children, through UAB. They could even do what Georgia did, which was turn it civil and generate revenue there if they wanted to.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean,
who's gonna be the proponent? Is Mr. Rafferty going to take up where Patricia left off? I don't know. I plan to get him on the show and ask him.
Yeah, there's not an obvious flag bearer at this point, and I still believe Alabama will be the last state to either legalize or decriminalize.
I even think law enforcement is not opposed to that happening.
Right, and in a lot of cities, I mean, in some cities, you see an awful lot of arrests, and in some cities, you really don't see as many. I mean, some take it more seriously than others, obviously, and it is the law. I mean, I honestly have some mixed feelings about it because
you're a parent.
Yeah, and I just came back from D.C. where all of a sudden the capital of the country smells like the small rodent house at the zoo, So, and I'm wondering, I'm wondering. I mean, having been a kid, yeah, having been a kid, I wonder, if that's the way to go. But at the same time, everybody, it's all around, and it's kind of hard to imagine criminalizing something you can get it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Same as the lottery. It's very similar to the lottery in that some people are capitalizing and making money off of these things that people want to do, and some are resisting.
Yeah, I don't.
We are a resistor.
Yeah, I don't, I'm with you. I think if we go, we'll be the last to go. So we got lottery, we got marijuana going on down there, we got funding for roads, the educational tax, not the educational tax, but the gas tax to fund that. No one knows what happens with the money off of the methane gas wells off the coast of Alabama, which are hideous looking. I've asked a number of legislative guests, where's that money go? And nobody knows. Nobody knows the answer to that question. Do you know?
That's interesting.
That's
no,
a
but
story
it sounds like
for
I need
you.
to be asking.
I mean, it goes, it can't be used in the general fund. It goes, I don't know where it's going. But the interest, it's got to be a huge number.
We did use that for the Gulf Shores Convention.
We used the BP
okay.
spill money for that center, I think, in part. So anyway, Alabama, we are number one in football and in the largest constitution in the world. So we got those two things going for us. Thanks for being with us. This is Our Issues Birmingham. We'll see you next Sunday.